Hi, Coach Kevin from Kaizen Academy here, talking about rest. Yes, today we're talking about rest because if you think about it, I sent out today's video a little bit later than usual. Why? To give you the idea that rest is important. Your body needs about 48 hours to fully recover from a very heavy plyometric type of exercise or something like that. It takes time. And rest is a key and important part of all that. It's the time for your body to repair, to rebuild, to strengthen. Your body needs it, it craves it. Let your body have it. So, we're going to talk about that here. And I should also talk about there's a few different type of recoveries. One of them is the short-term recovery, which is your hours afterwards. That's when you're starting with your cool down phase, which is important. Okay, this is when we try to do your stretches, static stretches. If you think about it, in the very beginning, we always start with active stretches, which is a part of activating your muscles, activating your body, getting it ready to do exercise. Afterwards, this is when your body is most pliable. So that's when you take the times for static stretches. That's when we're doing things to long lengthening. That's the most limber and supple your muscles are going to be right after exercise. That's a great time to stretch them. That's when you could use the foam roller also. Also, a part of your short term or hours afterwards recovery is quality sleep. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. So we're going on to our long term, which is our days or even weeks later. It's kind of built into your training. If you take a look at Coach Yasser and myself, we do things about periodization. There's going to be times when you're pushing hard, and then there's going to be times when you're pulling back a little bit. It really depends where you are in your season. There's different times when we want you to peak, and there's sometimes that we're just on the building growth over here. There's different ways that you can modify your workout, such as you're making changes. What type of workout you're doing? Are you doing more body weight? Are you doing more resistance training? There's different ways that you can change that up. The type of intensity that you use, the amount of time that you do it, the amount of distance. You may go a little farther or a little shorter, or other training variables like that. So let's get into what I'm calling the 3 R's: rest, rehydration, refueling. Okay. They did a study in 2015 about sleep deprivation, and what they found out in regards to sports performance was this: that there is an increase in level of cortisol, your stress hormone, the one you don't want, a decreased level in HGH, your human growth hormone, that goes down. Those are one of the main building blocks, main hormones that helps you do the building of your muscles. And it decreased glycogen synthesis, which is the creation of short-term energy. Think of it kind of like if it's short-term energy stores, like if you're going from meal to meal, not like going to fat, which is more long-term. So glycogen is a little bit more of your short-term energy stores that your body is using. So, all righty, let's talk about sleep. When we talk about good quality sleep, it's usually about 7 to 9 hours, depending on your age. If you're growing, you need more sleep. So, in general, what we're taking a look at, there was a study that it talked about the times that you really need it. So, school age children, 6 to 13, you're looking generally 9 to 11 hours. Teenagers, 14 to 17, usually about 8 to 10 hours. Young adults, 18 to 25, 7 to 9 hours. Adults and above is usually 7 to 9 hours. And then when you're 65 and older, it's usually about 7 to 8 hours. So once you kind of get beyond the 18-ish, then you start to go a little bit more, 7 to 9. It's because in the critical years, your body needs time to rest. That's when it's down. You may be tired and things like that. Your body is using a time to grow. Give it the proper amount of rest that it needs. Rehydration. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, Medicine determined that the adequate daily fluid intake is this: about 15.5 cups or 3.7 liters fluids for men, about 11.5 cups or 2.7 liters of fluids for women. Now, that's everything. That's your fluids from water, other beverages, things like that. And you got to remember now about 20% of that water intake or fluid intake is from food and some of them from drinks and things like that. But something to remember is this: a diuretic, your coffees, your caffeinated drinks or something like that takes away from the water. So that's something to always think about. So a general rule of thumb is if you drink 1 cup of coffee, you needed to at least drink 1 cup of water, probably two, since it's a diuretic, to keep your water intake. Now, you're going to hear me talk about water is the best. Okay. So let's think about it this way. If you had a soup and you just add some vegetable stock to it, if you keep adding vegetable stock, it's good. It's going to thin out the soup. Fantastic. But if you really want to thin out the soup, the thing that you really need is water. That's what's really going to thin out that soup. So kind of taking it from a really thick kind of thick gelatinous kind of thing, you want to use water to really hydrate and thin something out. Your blood is very similar to that. Your blood has lots of different things that are um, flowing throughout your system. You want to use water if you're using it for hydration. There are times to use energy drinks. There is time to use the ones with electrolytes and things like that. I understand that. But if you're looking for pure hydration, you really want to use water. So, as a very general rule, for those of you who didn't know, my background was actually exercise science. I did personal training, I did things like that for a number of years. So, one of the things that we usually did is, in general, for the average American, or sorry, for the average person, you want to put zero point 0.5 ounces per pound of weight. For an athlete, 0.76 ounces per pound of weight. So, as an example, for a 100-pound person, if you were doing just an average thing, you're taking about 50 ounces of water, ballpark right in there. Okay, if you're an athlete, you're really at 76 ounces of water if we're taking a 100-pound person. So that's something to kind of think about. What is your weight? And then times that by the modifiers 0.5 or 0.76. You guys are athletes, so it should be to 0.76. That's the amount that you should be using for your water intake. When we get to refuel, according to the IOC, International Olympic Committee's nutrition recommendations, the adequate amount of carbs is this. For moderate exercise, which is they consider about an hour a day, you're doing 2.5 to 3 grams of, um, of carbs per pound. Endurance exercise, which is 1 to 3 hours, 2.5 to 4.5 grams per pound. And extreme exercise, 4.5 to 5.5 grams per pound. We're going to fall somewhere in the 2.5 to 4.5, so in there. So what you really want to take out per pound that you are, 2.5 to 3.5, maybe 4 is a really good average right in there. So if you're thinking about, if you're 100 pounds, you're taking about 35 grams of carbs is what you're looking at. And the proteins, if you're taking the proteins, your covering meal should snack should have the foundation of your carbohydrate-rich bread, cereals, grains, fruits, vegetables, things like that, plus a smaller amount of protein, anywhere from 10 to 20 grams of protein per snack or meal. So, what we're talking about is this: is after um, after you take your exercising and things like that, get a small snack. There's some debate, some people think it's like, okay, needs to be taken within an hour. So at 61 minutes, my body takes in nothing. That's not correct. Okay, your body's still taking in energy. It's taking in energy. It needs food and things like that. They just consider that first hour is kind of a great time because your body's really craving something. It's gonna draw out somewhere. So your body's trying to take in food and nutrition and things like that. So the best way, obviously, is if you have a good healthy diet that you're eating, snacking throughout the day. So, and there are also things that say if you take smaller meals, like 6 meals a day, and eating it throughout, there's different studies and things like that. You can take a look at that. But I usually recommend grazing kind of throughout the day. That way your body doesn't, quote unquote, starve itself. So, something great to think about. So, some great options could be a fruit smoothie, Greek yogurt, banana and berries, cereal and milk, bagel, maybe a latte in there, decaf latte, pretzels and hummus, baked potato, cottage cheese, turkey sub, pasta, and meatballs. Now, a great thing that kind of came out is in 2012, they actually did a study with this chocolate milk. Oddly enough, they found out that chocolate milk with a 4-to-1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein. So, in other words, your general chocolate milk that if you go to any sort of grocery store that you grab there has found out to be a great uh, energy source right after your exercise. So that is going to be a great way for recovery. Also, another thing for protein, they've also found out that if you take the protein before you start doing your lifting, is actually better than afterwards when you do all your lifting. So for those who are doing some resistance trainings, things like that, take those into consideration. Now, let's talk about overtraining. Now, if you're not getting enough rest, you're going to start to go into overtraining. Things are going to happen is you're going to have the lack of recovery time. Your body's not going to like it. It needs that rest. Typically, what happens, you get a kind of a general malaise. You're just kind of down and out. You get a little stale. Some depression may happen in there, and even decrease in sports performance. Now, if you're trying to increase and trying to maintain a good level, it behooves you to actually give it some rest. Your body needs it. It needs time to recover. And things that will happen if you're not careful, you'll start getting just sports injuries, such as overuse injuries, your tendinitises, your bursitis, your muscle strains, joint pain, and things like that. So I recommend to you, give yourself a time of rest. Just like we did today. Today was the seventh day. Today was a rest day. Somewhere in there, give your time rest. It's okay. Your body wants it. Your body needs it. Give yourself a mental health and rest day. So, Kaizen Academy, think about rest.